Patreon.com/the Walk Off Podcast. $4 a month gets you in there. All right, let's get to it. Bichette, 3-year deal. This is big news? This is non-news? What is this? What's your take on this? Because when I first saw the tweet, it was like, oh, extension. I was like shaking in my seat waiting to click on the news and the details of this, right? Was it 11 years? Was it 15 years? Was it 6 years? What was it going to be? They bought out his arbitration.
Yeah. For the hockey fans out there, Bo Horvat just got signed long-term by the Islanders. So I was like 2 days ago, I was like coming on my computer and Bo signed 7-year deal. It just said Bo. Like they can just say the first name, right? And I was just jumping. I was just jumping for joy. I click on it. I'm like, New York. What am I missing here? And then now, like 24 hours later, Bo does sign, and I was very hopeful that there was some type of extension involved, right? I was hopeful that there was some sort of maybe a team option for another year or two, or where he's walking away at 29 now instead of 27, something like that, right? I was very hopeful. But
so let's clarify then for anybody who maybe hasn't read the tweets or the headlines or anything like that. This does not push his free agency date back at all. There's no extra team control. It is a 3-year deal. I think Ben Nicholson-Smith is reporting sources close to him saying $33.5 million. I don't know if that's been confirmed or not. It's security on both ends. I was reading an Andrew Stoughton, friend of the show. Subscribe to his Substack. If you don't, it's a good read. He's a good guy. So he brought up some comparable numbers here, and I just want to throw these out, and then we can talk. So, Trey Turner, similar situation as a shortstop, was looking for $7.45 million in his 3 years left point of his arbitration. He was a Super 2 guy, so he had 4 years of arb, or an extra year of arb. Anyways, he went on over the course of his final 3 years of arbitration to make $41.5 million. Whereas a guy like Carlos Correa was at $5 million in arbitration at this point, and then only went on to make 25 because of like injuries and some statistical drop-offs based on his injuries and stuff like that. Javi Baez was another comparable, who went from 5.2 million at this point to 10 million the following season, and then 11.65 in his final year because of a huge statistical drop-off. So for comparables, we're looking at Carlos Correa, Javi Baez, two guys who were on the upswing but had some setbacks in arbitration, made about 25 million over their final 3 years. Trey Turner was at the similar point, continued that upward trend, around 41 million. So Blue Jays and Bichette kind of meeting in the middle.
Yeah, cut the difference.
So that's where we're at.
Yeah, it sounds, when you think about it, at the end of his tenure, at the end of that contract, he'll have been paid 36 million over 6, right? So like that's pretty good money to be spending for your starting shortstop, who literally since he started playing was your starting shortstop. There was no like, oh, it's 50-50 time. No, as soon as Bo was up, he was our starting shortstop. So that price point's pretty solid. To like dive into the contract, and the devil's advocate in me wants to smash things, but at the same time, I'm gonna say at least it's a step in the right direction for him being here long term. I feel like last week, the chances of him staying past 2026 were 30%, in that range, 25. You look at the chat, and wherever you go, people are like, trade him, get rid of him, get rid of Bo. And I'm so on the opposite side of that fence. To me, I want Bo with this team until he doesn't want to play baseball anymore. So, yeah. So I will say that I am happy that we're not going to be dealing with this issue every off season where they're toiling for a month just to get a few $1 million we're arguing over 2.5 for this
Right.
year. And to do that every single year would just, it just does, Bo, that doesn't need to be in Bo's head for the next three
Hmm.
seasons. So I'm glad that they've at least made a step to say, here's a good chunk of money. You deserve it. You've led the league in hits back-to-back years. You're going to get paid well, guaranteed over the next 3 years, no matter what happens to injury. So there's some guarantee there. And then hopefully we put some nice wins together and he feels like this is a place he wants to be for, the foreseeable future. That's my big thing. I want Bo a Blue Jay.
I'm with you there. Like I said, first heard the news, my expectations and my excitement level went to 11.
Mm,
Read the news, I felt deflated.
mm,
Slept on it overnight. Uh, some positive takeaways that I want to share with you and everybody listening, who maybe feel like a little bit discouraged as well, like that it's not a 7 or 8 year or even 5 year deal. Like this doesn't ensure any extra games played in a Blue Jays uniform. Um, we were positive last week, you and I talking about the Chad Green contract with
mhm.
the creative options and how that was an encouraging sign of what this front office was willing to do to make things work. And I think that's another thing that I want to take away from this contract is that both sides were willing to get something done, right? Uh, it also shows me that, I mean, because there's been a lot of speculation for several years now that Bo Bichette is a bet on himself kind of guy and he is going to
Mhm.
be a maximize his earning potential kind of guy. If that was the case, he left money on the table by signing this extension,
Yeah,
right? We just talked the Trey Turner numbers. That's $41 million. dollars. And again, that's a couple years in the past now. So there's a very real possibility if he was going to bet on himself, he could have made 40 to 45 million,
exactly. Yeah,
right? So he is leaving money on the table for some security. That makes me optimistic. If we're going to talk long term deals at any point over the next 3 years, that he isn't just looking to absolutely make every possible dollar. So I am
exactly.
happy by that. That is some very positive news. Also, on the Blue Jays side, this also shows us a team who is already at the luxury tax threshold that they are willing to go over it even further because
Mhm.
this the way the cap penalties work is it is based on the AAV of a contract, right? The annual average value. So his cap hit this year, if they just did the arbitration, would have been either 5 or 7, right? Depending on where the arbitrator goes. That's the cap hit for this year. But because they're doing 33 over 3, the cap hit is then going to be 11 all 3 seasons. So
Yeah.
that's an $11 million cap hit this year as opposed to 5 or 7. So for a team that's already at the luxury tax threshold, willing to go 4 or 5 million more over the tax limit, again, I think is a encouraging sign.
Well, yeah, it's an encouraging sign because it says that when they reach that amount where they got to start paying 20%, 25% on what you're throwing out there, that they're not afraid of that money being spent. Like
Yeah.
you feel like once you got to that limit, is that the barrier that you're going to stop at because you don't want to invest, a buck 20 on every buck that you have to spend. So for them to have the mindset of we're going over and we don't know how far yet, but
Hmm.
just the fact that we know that that wasn't, we, I probably thought for a while that that was a wall that we would
Yeah, I
hit.
thought so too.
And
I didn't think we were. I thought maybe when we have Bo and Vladdy both signed, we're a
mm,
luxury tax team. Like we're like at the limit, and that's our limit. And over the last month, I've seen that that is not a limit for us. And like you said, I
nope.
don't know where that limit is, but it is not the luxury tax. Whatever that number is, we are willing to go over it, and I'm very encouraged by that.
Yeah, we're about, was it about 15 million over now in that
Yeah,
range?
yeah.
Right. That's so, like I said, coming into this off season, I felt like our financial step up from 21 to 22 was about 35 million in payroll, something around there. I feel like we did something similar that year, this year coming from 190, 200 now to 230 in that range.
Yeah.
So it's like we've taken like I said, I thought it was a wall that we were going to run into and just stop at this season. And then maybe, like you said, in the future for signing Bo, Vladdy long term, that's where we break through it. But we're doing it right now, and that's maybe that has a little bit to do with Cohen in New York saying, if you're going to win in this league, you got to spend. That barrier has to be something that you can break through if you want to win a World Series, because it, money puts players on the field, and we got a huge market,
Yeah.
right? We're all of Canada, so to be a team that can say, hey, we're gonna spend like you guys do downstairs, and the fact that our money is Canadian money, so that says something else on top of it, right?
Yeah.
Like, we're paying a little bit extra because our money isn't worth what American money is. So the fact that they hit that presumed wall and went right through it is, I'll give Shapiro and Atkins some compliments for that.
Hey, some compliments from Joel from Hey Kami on
I
Shapiro
can go both ways.
Atkins. Wow, I'm impressed. Hey,
I'm a switch hitter. I swing for both sides.
yeah, you call it like you see it, and I'll give you credit there. Okay,